Hi everybody, thank you for the support from the back of the first video, much appreciated. So definitely gave me a kick up the backside to keep going. So I want to go right back to the beginning to kind of what ADHD is, how to get it diagnosed and those things, because if you're in this world then it will make sense to you. If you're new to this world or in your journey into diagnosis for ADHD, then you'll be given a lot of abbreviations and 3 or 4 letter words that mean absolutely nothing. So ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. It's quite a common disorder nowadays. It's a lot more common than it used to be, and it can affect things like your focus, your impact control, your emotional responses, and a lot of other things. It's often diagnosed in childhood, but sometimes not until sort of teens or later years, depending on how it's managed and how it comes out and when you notice it. I was 28 before I got my official diagnosis, but had been speculating before that around why I struggled with certain things and found things difficult and couldn't concentrate and didn't know what I kind of wanted to do as far as work and things goes. Found some things really, really easy. Found other things that should be easy, literally impossible. So that was kind of why I went down that road of getting my diagnosis. You might also hear of it as ADD, which is Attention Deficit Disorder. So that is without the hyperactivity. So that's more the kind of daydreamy, just kind of zoning out, not being able to concentrate. And later on we'll look at diagnosis and what that looks like. What ADHD is not, but is quite commonly referred to, and definitely was when I started learning about it, is all about hyperactivity. So the initial thought is that ADHD is that kind of Tasmanian devil running around, throwing chairs, kicking off, always on the go. Doesn't always kind of look that way. It may be daydreamy or off in their own world, or people that just look like they're not kind of listening, they're not really there. It's also not a problem to do with laziness, but quite often it can appear that way because we shut down, we get overwhelmed, we procrastinate, we have something on in the afternoon, so literally can do nothing in the morning. And it's caused by different wiring in the brain more than anything else. So it can appear lazy and it can appear that we're not trying, but I assure you that's not the case. We might just be absolutely exhausted or massively overthinking something that we don't need to but don't have control over at that time. It's not something that you grow out of either. I've had a few people that I've coached in my time and a few parents that I've met that are like, well, when are they going to grow out of it? Do they grow out of it after being kids or teenagers? No, you don't grow out of it. It can change and it can mould and adapt. My ADHD now is different to what it was in my early 20s, which is different to what it was in my early teens, which is different to what it was when I was a kid, as far as I've learned so far. But it's still there. It's just managed in different ways, and I've learned how to utilise the strengths of it and not focus on the negatives, although sometimes they do absolutely creep in. So some of the things that people with ADHD may struggle with, getting and staying organised. Okay, still a struggle. I have to be over-organised to be normally organised, if that makes sense. So at all of the jobs that I do, I've got kind of spreadsheets, reminders, tasks, calendars, all those kind of things to help me stay organised. But when I show them to neurotypical people, they're like, oh my God, that's insane. But without that, I'm off track and I'm not organised and I'm panicking and I'm anxious and I forget things and I make mistakes. So for lots of us and our kids, we will need help with that and support with it rather than you should know how to do that by now. Can struggle with managing emotions as well. So we can be hot-headed, we can be indifferent, we can kind of kick off at the smallest things, we can overthink things, we can be upset for ages and not be too sure why. So that doesn't always change as you grow into adulthood either. So we still need help with managing emotions and knowing what's okay, and actually people accepting that is incredibly important. Following directions is also a tricky one. So somebody saying, right, well, first of all, we're going to do this, then you're going to do that, tidy your room, sort this out, then go and do that, then do that. The message is absolutely lost. So keeping things simple, breaking things down one by one, makes life significantly easier to follow, and sometimes breaking down those tasks as well. So tidy your room can be just too big a task for a child with ADHD or suspected ADHD, because you look at your room and you don't know where to start. You don't know what tidy means, so you kind of don't do anything. You can also struggle with shifting focus from one thing to another. So one of the things is sometimes you need to put a good chunk of time aside to be able to do one task. Whereas some people might be able to go, oh, I'll do 15 minutes of that, and then I'll do this, and then I'll do that. You kind of need to get in the zone to be able to do these things. I definitely found that with teaching and with marking, that I can't kind of dip into a project, mark it for 10 minutes, then go and do something else and come back to it. I kind of need to block out enough time to mark that entire project, because shifting from that to something else, I don't do any of them properly. Keeping things in mind, so that working memory, that kind of retaining information, or having those conversations, again, can be tricky for some of us, because quite often we're trying to think, we're trying to remember, and actually in our heads we're going, remember this, remember this, remember this. Therefore you're not actually listening, because you're telling yourself to remember something. So sometimes that can absolutely be a struggle, unless it's something that's potentially really important or holds our interest. Thinking before saying or doing things is equally a massive one that comes up quite a lot. Sometimes we will say things in our head that we think will come across funny, intelligent, the right thing to say. Then you say it, you don't get the reaction that you thought you would, and then before you know it, you're questioning everything you've ever said or done, or why you've upset somebody, or why they reacted like that. So sometimes we will also say things impulsively without thinking of the repercussions as they come through. Absolutely got sidetracked yesterday. I started recording the video, got to a point, got stuck with where I was going, so decided to take a break and come back and finish it today, hence the changing clothing and probably slightly different angle. So the thing I finished on yesterday was thinking before saying or doing things, which happens quite a lot, or overthinking and then not saying things in case you say the wrong thing. It's still something that needs working on. Sometimes get it right, sometimes get it wrong, but being around people that are kind of supportive and understand that definitely helps. Getting started on tasks is another thing that we will definitely have trouble with, that procrastination. I keep seeing a funny meme pop up. If I can add it to the video, I will. If not, that's just me pointing up there. Around, if you've got something to do at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, then you can do nothing else with your day until that 4 o'clock comes round. And that is definitely something that I can resonate with work and with other things as well. I quite like getting up, getting things done so that I can switch off rather than waiting to start something, because I can overthink it, then kind of lose momentum, and then everything becomes really kind of difficult and really annoying. So getting started on tasks can be really tricky, especially if they're tasks that we're not excited about. So if there's something cool we want to do, or we want to go to play golf, or we want to have a tattoo, or we want to go and do whatever it is that we want to do, I've got lots of friends who enjoy music and DJing and stuff like that, then that's fine. We can get started on those at any given point because they're what we enjoy. If you've got to sort out your accounts, or you've got to write a report, or you've got to do something that is a bit mundane, getting started on them can be like really hard, and it's hard to explain it to people that don't have that issue, because they're like, just do it, and it doesn't kind of work that way. It's got to be broken down, it's got to be manageable, or you've got to be able to reward yourself at the end and go, do you know what, I'll do this and do that, and then I'm going to do something that I kind of enjoy. Quite often we can struggle with focusing on what's important as well. We can lose sight of the facts, I suppose, and any discussions that I've had around kind of my ADHD is that I can absolutely ignore the facts and just work off of emotion. So you lose focus on what's important, because in your head there's something else there that's more important, or there's something trivial, or there's something somebody said, or the way that something was done, and actually the facts of it aren't true, but in your brain you're kind of telling yourself that they're true. So sometimes we can struggle to focus on what's important and what needs doing and what is actually happening, because we will blind our side ourselves. So again, working with somebody, having somebody that understands that can help to bring down those things that you're thinking at that time, and then to refocus you on what's important, or breaking it down, or bringing those anxieties down can really help. And then finally, for this one, the time management. We can absolutely suffer with time blindness, and we're really good at underestimating how long things take. So, you know, we might do a project or something at home, and in my head I'm like, oh, we'll do that in the morning, so we can move the furniture out, do that, sort that wall out, whatever it is, and then I get really frustrated at the fact that it's taken longer than 45 minutes to do what would actually probably take an entire weekend, if not longer. Or for some people, or for kids, you know, you can be gaming and you'll lose track of time, because although you know that you need to come off after a certain time, or you know that this needs to happen, you just don't think about it, you know. Or yeah, I'll finish this game, then I'll have a shower, then I'll sort my school stuff out. It becomes, I'll just do one more game, followed by us as parents getting annoyed and telling them that maybe they haven't done things the way that they thought they would. But so the things to remember, ADHD is not kind of a choice. It's not something that we do. There are definitely ways that we can help ourselves, and with lots of these neurodiversities and lots of things like anxiety and depression, they will go in waves. So, you know, when my ADHD is good and when it's well managed, the things that I struggle with are significantly less. When I'm stressed and I'm tired, or I've taken on too much, or I'm on the way to kind of burning out, which we'll cover in another video, I can absolutely struggle with kind of all of the things I've mentioned. I can struggle with shifting focus, getting things started, managing my emotions, getting organised, keeping things in my memory, and it can all kind of come undone very, very quickly. And again, in future videos, we will talk about ways to support those. But that is a very, very quick overview of some of the generic things to do with ADHD, some of the things that relate to me. If any of you have got any other things you can add to that you struggle with, or any kind of examples of where you struggle with things and why, and I might be able to help, then drop them in the comments below. Thanks.